All right, let's get started. Can you hear me okay, Michael? Okay, perfect. Well, welcome to our first session of week 3 for Design 350. What we are going to do today, we go over a couple of announcements, and then we're going to talk about our discussion for this week. And then I have one video we're going to watch today. This is called How to Promote and Market Yourself. It's by one of the guys we've already seen a couple other ones from, but it's got some good information, again, about one of the key aspects. I know that we've been hitting this quite a bit, but again, if you don't have clients, then your business is not going to do you much good. So we want to make sure that we're really hitting that point. We're going to talk about our assessment, and I'm going to do some demonstrations in that. We're going to talk about using Excel particularly. I'm going to go over a couple of, I wouldn't say advanced, but more like medium level tricks that you can do in Excel to just kind of simplify things for yourself. And then we are going to talk about our assignments and talk about creating forms in InDesign. And then at the end, I'm going to go over just kind of a sort of a brief outline, I guess, of the sort of the kind of the process that I take with my own business when working with clients. And again, there's not, some of the things are definitely things you want to do for sure, but in a lot of ways, it's just kind of best practices that I've found have worked for me, and you will, I'm sure, want to adjust things here and there that work better for you in your specific business and clientele, but it'll give you kind of at least some things to think about in the starting point when thinking about the processes to go through once you do have a client. So again, to start off, let's talk about just a couple of announcements. The first one is that I have finished the grading for everything that was turned in as of about yesterday afternoon. Oh no, I didn't make that image. That's part of the template, actually. I wish I had. It's pretty nice. But so the grading's all finished. Make sure and go in and click again on your score and click on the view rubric to read any comments that I have in there. On Thursday, we're going to be going through the pieces, and I'm going to be giving pretty detailed critiques and feedback on the design aspects of the marketing pieces from last week. So you'll want to watch that. And just like in all the other weeks, if you want to make revisions on things and resubmit them, then you're welcome to do that, and I will regrade it and adjust your score. Oh, nice, Wayne. The other announcement that I wanted to point out, just like normal, I've posted our learning coaches schedule in here for this week. So Christy's going to be available this week on Wednesday from 12 to 7 Mountain Time, and on Thursday from 12 to 5 Mountain Time. If you need any assistance with anything, just contact her using that information down below. And she is very capable and very willing to help. All right. So that said, let's take a look at our discussion for this week. Our discussion for this week has to do with something called RFPs, or Request for Proposal Responses. And make sure to read the background here. I've got an article here that talks about some things that you really want to make sure to pay attention to if you're doing an RFP response. But basically, so an RFP is something that is put out by a business to request bids. Basically, they are saying, we need this job done, and we want people to put together a proposal. Let us know what you would do to accomplish this. Let us know what you would charge for that. Let us know why we should choose you. So you're basically throwing your hat in the ring for a job. It's kind of like William, you were talking about earlier, some of the websites you use. It sounds like one of them was a similar sort of thing, but that one was kind of like a contest. This one, you're not actually doing the work up front, but you are really pitching yourself as the right candidate for this. And then they go through those proposals, and they choose a vendor, choose a person who's going to take care of that, and that's how you get the job. They're a lot of work, and depending on your situation, they may or may not be a good way for you to go. And so that's one of the things that this discussion talks about as you're doing your research that you should find out about is not only the pros but the cons. And some businesses do a lot of these and find them to be a very successful way to generate work. And other businesses find that they have more effective ways to generate work and just stick with those and don't necessarily do RFPs. But it's important to know what they are, and it's important to know how to respond to them should you choose to do so. And there's a video here on them that's specifically with web design, and then there's an article on them as well in the background, and definitely make sure to write them. The three that it points out here that I've listed here to make sure to find out, make sure you find out about RFPs in the first place. So make sure you're ready to respond to them. Have a ready, well-written, thoughtful response. You want to make sure that you've put a lot of thought into this and really well written it well. Your writing skills are very big in getting an RFP approved for you. And then second, the last one here, and this is a big one, do not quote your lowest price. In RFPs, prepare to be negotiated. They it's rare that they're just going to say, okay, great, everything's good, we're going to pay you what you said. If you are the person that they're looking at doing, or one of the candidates they're considering, they will generally come back to you and start negotiating, start saying, okay, well, we like this and this and this, but would you be able to do this? Could you add this to it? And could you knock this much off the price? And so you need to make sure that you've left some padding in your proposal for negotiation so that you aren't just backed into a corner. The last place you want to be is where you are, where you just can't go down, or it's not going to be profitable. But at the same time, you're feeling like, well, this would be a good thing for my portfolio, and I'd really like to do it. Where if you just made sure that you were coming in a little above what the lowest you're willing to do it, then you can kind of have a win-win situation where you're like, this sounds great, it would be great for my portfolio, and I can still knock this much off of it and have it be a good thing for my business as well. Okay. Which, like I very regularly look up what the market value is for things in my area, and I tend to put in near, not the high end, but mid to high for myself. Again, just because I know I'm going to get dickered down. So the prompt, what we're going to be doing to RFP or not to RFP, that's the question. There's many pros and cons to responding to RFPs. Answer the following questions and support your findings and how you may or may not want to utilize this approach to obtaining work. So outside of the three listed above, what do you think are three more important aspects to respond to an RFP, and why? So ignoring these three on the bullet list, what are the next three do you think are going to be the most important? And again, you've got a lot of them here in this article right there. Some web design companies don't do responses to RFPs. Research some of the reasons why this is. What are the advantages to responding to RFPs, and what are some of the disadvantages and why? And then based on your research from the first two questions, how would you advise a web designer starting out to respond to RFPs as part of their client generation strategy? Okay, and just like normal, it's going to be 200 words, and you have at least 2 citations on that. The initial post needs to be in by Wednesday at 11:59 p.m. So tomorrow, 11:59 p.m. And then at least 2 responses to your classmates by the end of the week, Saturday at 11:59 p.m. And make sure you're splitting up things to at least 2 days of the week that you're doing some sort of participation here in the discussions. Yeah, exactly, William. It is a pain. Again, it totally depends on your situation. Some web designers, their experience and their portfolio lends itself better to the type of businesses that do RFPs. Some people put together great templates of RFPs that they're able to quickly make changes to in order to get so they're not having to rewrite the whole thing from scratch and get it in there. There are definitely situations, and some jobs that require an RFP, not all, but some jobs that require an RFP can be significantly high-paying projects. Can be projects that are going to last you months and months that are going to bring a lot of money in. And so, those are some situations where the pain of putting one together can offset the benefits of doing it. However, putting together RFPs for little projects here and there and are, you know, that can be more trouble than it's worth. And so can, if your style is one that just doesn't tend to win an RFP, then don't bother doing it. Find other ways to bring in clients. Now, any questions at all on our discussion for this week? All right. Then let's just watch this one video real quick on how to promote yourself. And just like when we've done the videos so far,
I'm creating my Wix site. You think you already have a stuff?
I want you to pay attention to what he's saying and think of at least one thing that stands out to you in this video, and then we will talk about those and other things after the video's over. Oh, and actually, I'm going to re-share my screen because I can't remember for sure if I shared it with the audio right. Okay, it is. All right, here we go.
Today's YouTube video, Hey everybody, this is graphic designer Roberto Blake, and in today's YouTube video, I'm going to talk about how you promote yourself as a graphic designer. If you're just tuning into the channel, I usually do graphic design videos on Mondays, so make sure you're subscribed to get all of those. In reading your comments and your emails, I've learned something very interesting. One of the things that you guys are not getting in your formal education in graphic design school is the breakdown on how you actually promote yourself as a graphic designer and the fact that you should even be doing it at all. You're getting a lot of advice, even from me, about your resume and your portfolio, and that's great, and it's still super important to you building your career, getting those first jobs, etc. But a lot of that is still the traditional way of approaching things, and that's why you're hearing more of that. A lot of people aren't realizing or are not telling you that there are several unconventional ways of promoting yourself and getting a job opportunity, and that may be that's what's holding you back because you can't compete in that conventional arena where everybody's competing. You need to do something different and you need to get noticed. And part of that is promoting yourself in the right ways. And there's a lot of different ways you can approach that. You probably already have figured out that one of the directions I'm going to go in here is going to be social media and obviously video promotion. So to give you some background on all of this, one of the things you need to know is when I got my first job at an advertising agency, I did not apply to that advertising agency. I did not mail them my resume. I did not email them my resume. I did not walk by. I didn't know anybody there. They called me out of the blue. And it's because they found my website, they looked at my work, they looked me up in social, and they decided that they wanted to hire me and that I was capable of doing the work that they wanted. And that only happened because they were able to find me in Google because I'd been blogging about graphic design. I'd been talking about it in social media. I had been very present and pronounced on every platform that I could, that I was involved in graphic design, and that's what I was ultimately aspiring to do, and that I was looking to work at an ad agency. So by putting that out there, by marketing, by promoting and showing my expertise, my knowledge, and showing off my work, that's how I got the gig. Now, some other things that I did that led up to that probably helped me were the fact that I did manage to get my artwork published in Advanced Photoshop and Photoshop Creative Magazine. I won a few online competitions. I've been featured in blogs and articles by other people. And those things happened because, again, I got the ball rolling. I decided to put myself out there, promote myself, and just take every opportunity for exposure. And you don't need to limit yourself in doing that. You don't need to limit yourself in just doing that locally. You should be trying to get out there, and if there's an industry event that you can make it to or something that's remotely related to what you're doing creatively, go there and pass out your business cards. Part of promoting yourself is having a few key pieces in place to market and promote yourself and show off your best work. So if you don't have one already, you need to have a business card. Obviously, that needs to be pointing them to your website. If you don't have one, you need to go out and get a website. You can get one through any number of web hosting providers. I'll leave some affiliate link stuff in the description below, but you can go out and you can definitely do that. You can get a domain name, and you can actually just point your domain name at your Behance portfolio. It's a totally free website where you can showcase your graphic design work, behance.net. If you have Adobe Creative Cloud, you can directly move your work that you've already finished into your Behance portfolio and show it off right away. So, there's no reason for you to not have an online portfolio that's professional. Cost is not an excuse here. There's all kinds of ways that you can do it free or affordably. So once you have that in place, it needs to be on your business card. If you're doing flyers, it needs to be on those, etc. You need to be showcasing your work wherever you can. Definitely have a print portfolio. I've gone over in multiple videos the importance of having a solid portfolio and having one that's ready to go for web, one for print, and even having one on your mobile device, even if it's just a simple image gallery of all of the work that you've done. You need to just have that so you can show it off in whatever context you need to. Now, while it's important to have your own website and to be in these other places, you know, having your own website is great, having your own blog is great, but if you're not promoting and driving traffic to it, then the odds are no one's going to really see it and be interested in it. So you need to be in online communities like Behance, like DeviantArt, and just anywhere that you can put your work. The reason I was able to get some of my stuff published in Advanced Photoshop was because they had a community website and forums and galleries where I could post my work. Other people would comment on it, would like it. That's how I won a Photoshop Creative Editor's Choice Award, and that was even last year. I don't update there nearly as often anymore, but you know, I do. People still see it. It still becomes valuable to me marketing myself and to building up my overall brand. And there's a lot of other things you can do. You could make a bunch of free bookmarks and have your contact info on them, have your artwork on them, and leave them in your local big bookstore. Just start giving them away to anybody you see shopping for books. Maybe they need a graphic designer for something. So this can lead to client gigs. This could lead to you getting the job opportunities you want. Just be super creative. I've seen graphic designers do a ton of creative things to promote themselves. Everything from buying a billboard that says hire me with their contact info on it to replicating a popular magazine and sending it out to creative agencies. So, I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do. Something else that I'm doing that's even more recent to promote myself as a graphic designer, as an artist, is something that you've probably heard me showing off and talking about in social media. Is I made t-shirts. I made Create Awesome t-shirts that you can buy and order through Spreadshirt, and I'm buying a bunch of the different colors and designs of it that I like, so that when I meet people and I'm wearing it and I'm engaging with them, they're going to ask me about my shirt and what it means. And then I get to tell them about the Create Awesome community that we have, my philosophy, that you should always be creating content, always be creating something for yourself and sharing it with the world, sharing it for others, and always creating value for others. That's a good conversation starter, and that's the point. Promoting and marketing yourself isn't always tooting your own horn. It's creating a way of engaging with people that really gets the ball going, and for them to see the value you have to offer, and for you to find out if they have value that you might be interested in utilizing in some way or sharing with other people. So you want to build those relationships, but you're not going to do it being a wallflower and just hoping that people find you and stumble across your work. You have to create those opportunities for people to see what you have. So if you're only sending out resumes, then that your potential opportunities are literally limited by the places you've applied to, the emails that you sent, and the resumes that have gone out. You're not doing anything else, and you have no other way or no other avenue for those opportunities and those people to find you. And that's my whole point here, is you need to be creating that. So anybody that sees merchandise that I create, anybody who sees these YouTube videos, anybody who sees anything that I'm putting out in the world might decide that, hey, I want to hire Roberto Blake to do something for me. And that happens, and that's a reason why I can go ahead and have my own creative design business, and I can do the things that I want to do, and why I have the time to share my experience with you guys. So again, just to recap, take every opportunity to promote yourself. Make sure you have a strong website. Make sure you have all of your personal print marketing material. Make sure that it all syncs together and works seamlessly. Make sure that you're creating every opportunity that you can to go out there and market and promote yourself. You know, go out to your local bookstores, coffee shops, network with people, go to events, go to parties, go to conventions, do anything you can to just get your name out there and get people interested in your work. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any questions in the comment section below. Like this video if you like it. Don't forget to subscribe. Check out the other great content on the channel. As always, you guys, thanks so much for watching. Don't forget, you can pick up the new Create Awesome t-shirts in my Spreadshirt store, which is robertoblake.spreadshirt.com. There'll be a link in the description below. And don't forget, create something awesome today.
Wrong button there. Sorry about that. All right. So self-promotion. What is something that you talked about in that video that stood out to you?
I'm kind of still laughing, but it was kind of funny that he mentioned his T-shirts on the self-promotion thing, and then at the end he promoted his T-shirts. So it's kind of cute.
Yeah, exactly. That's, it kind of goes back to what I was saying last week too. Like when we're watching these videos of these guys talking about how to promote, that's what they're doing. This is one of the avenues that they're using to self-promote. And it's amazing how well those things can come together. You find ways to add a little benefit to people, educate or assist, and those are actually adding benefit to you. That comes right back to you. Yeah, making T-shirts, leaving promotional items everywhere. Now, this comes back to in week 1 when we watched the video of the guy talking about how he was trying to get going as a designer, and then at one point he realized, okay, I really need to just come together and make this official. And so he stepped back and he looked at everything as a whole and created a brand for himself. And that's one of the things that's very important, is that as you're throwing out all these little self-promotion things, whether it's on social media, whether it's leaving, like you said, bookmarks somewhere, whether it's doing education things, any of that sort of stuff, you want it to be recognizable as all part of the same brand, because it generally takes multiple, they call them impressions, multiple exposures to a company, to a product, to an individual, before people decide that they want to act upon making that, whether it's buying a product, whether it's hiring that person. They generally need to have been exposed to them multiple times and had a positive exposure, something that piqued their interest on multiple occasions. And then at one point they go, maybe I should look into that. Maybe I should contact them. Maybe I should see what they can do for me. And so you need to make sure that all those different multiple things are clearly tied together so that people recognize them as multiple exposures to the same business, right? Go ahead.
One thing that I've really noticed is very important, and he mentioned it, is the portfolio and yell darn dog, and having something to show that you know what you're talking about. Mm-hmm. I actually got an internship. I replied to a help wanted ad for an internship, and they looked at my portfolio, my Behance account, and almost entirely hired me right off of that.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, there's nothing better than when people come to you, because again, you're constantly going out trying to find these jobs and find these clients. And when every once in a while someone just comes and says, hey, I'm interested in having you to work for me, when you never actually did like a targeted specific going out and trying to get work from that person, it's a fantastic feeling. And there's so many ways to build that up. He was talking about how he does these videos and how he does educational things. I used to work for a company, and what we would do is we found opportunities to get onto local radio stations as not as an advertisement, but as a guest, right? Get on there and talk to them about the importance of web design, or maybe something happened recently in the news that's related to web security or something like that, and you can get someone to come and, this is Michael, and he's actually owns a local web design company, and so tell us, what does this mean? That sort of thing. If you can present yourself as an expert, not just from sending out emails and sending out advertisements saying hire me to make your website, but just as I'm an expert, and I can help you out with this. I can answer questions. I can teach you things, which is what they're doing in these videos on YouTube. They're teaching things, and that's what's bringing in that work. I can tell you. So I've told you that one of the businesses that I run is a Mac consulting company, and there's a company called Bezix, exactly, authority on the subject. There's a company called Bezix. Let me pull up their website so you can see what I'm talking about. So this company creates quick reference guides. They're basically one sheets front and back, or sometimes a spread front and back, that just cram in a ton of information for different, for companies to give to their employees, or for people that should learn on tons of different software products, whether it's operating systems or here's the Photoshop one. And it's just fast and dirty, just boom, boom. Here's what you do. Here's where to click. Here's where to find these things. And one time I just was asked, I was hired from my Mac consulting standpoint to come out and help them because they were having a computer issue with their computers. And I came out and I just struck up a conversation with the owner. And while I was sitting there working on things, I was talking about my background. I was talking about the fact that I do graphic design as well, that I teach graphic design. And by the time that conversation ended, she said, you know what, like, we're really not very happy with our Mac writer right now. Would you be interested in writing guides for us? We need guides written on Mac operating system, on iOS, on the Adobe products, since you do graphic design. So we just, I was like, very possibly. And we discussed the pay, and she actually pays very well, and she needs a lot of work done. And so all of a sudden I have this additional stream of income that came from no other reason than she started to see me as an authority on the subject. And then to cap on to that, one of the big ways that they sell their guides is I run their Twitter feed. She pays me again monthly to run their Twitter feed. We have multiple ones, a Mac related one and a Windows related one. And I go on there, and most of the time I give tips. I tell people, hey, you want to do this? This is how you do it. Hey, have you seen this feature? You can use it this way. And then every once in a while, I tweet out about, oh, hey, we've got this new guide. You should go buy them. Hey, oh, yeah, we got this. And so by far and away, if someone follows us on Twitter, they see us as a source for information, not as something they have to spend money on. They see us on as an expert. But then we slip in those seeds every once in a while of, oh, we also have this thing that can help even more if you want to spend a little money on it. And then they do, right? So we live in a time where, marketing has become much, much more, well, for one thing, it's become much more readily available for just the average business or average freelancer to be able to access very widespread marketing. But also we're at a time where so much more of it is based upon networking and on impressions and on promotion, rather than just directly, here's what I have, this is what it costs, tell me if you want to buy it. All right, does that make sense? And then to kind of tag on to that, tag on to the idea of people coming to you, I want to talk about the most important thing for any business, and that is repeat customers. Well, I mean, happy customers. Because from happy customers, you get repeat customers, and you also get recommendations. You get people that say to other people, oh, you're looking for a web designer? I know this guy is great. I can't tell you how many times people come to me and say, hey, I don't do a lot of database work or anything like that. And so they'll say, hey, I know you don't do this, but do you know any good database people? Do you know any good, who do you know that could do a big web project right now? Because they trust me, because I have a good relationship with them. And that will come from clients of yours as well. Yeah, word of mouth is big. People just tell other people, and pretty soon you've got customers coming to you that you've never even heard of before, that you've never approached any way whatsoever. But it's because someone who they do trust worked with you, was very happy with the situation, and said, you should do the same thing. You should talk to this person. There's actually, when I used to work for Apple Computers years ago, an article came out in the Harvard Business Review. Let's see if I can find this one here. It was this thing here, the one number you need to grow. And it was actually brought to my attention by like the executive team at Apple. This was a big thing for them. And it's a big thing for a lot of very big businesses now. And it's something that you may want to incorporate in your business plan. And that is that whenever somebody shopped with us, you know, you quite often get these surveys, and they used to be, 10 questions, a lot of in-depth stuff. But the argument that this person makes, and that a lot of companies have taken, is that there's really only one question that's the most important question. And that is, how likely are you to recommend us to someone else? That's it. What they say is that you come in there and they say, when that person has finished working with you, you say, so I'd like to know, how likely are you to recommend us to someone else? And according to this concept that this person came up with, the only numbers that mean, okay, good, I can ignore this and move on, are 9 and 10. Someone says 9 or 10, great, I did my job. Someone says 8 or below, you want to find out why. You want to find out, oh, okay, so was there something we could have done that would have made your experience better? Because the reality that he calls them promoters, or cheerleaders is another term I've heard for it, but people need to be enthusiastic about your company. Adobe has that, nice. If someone says to me, oh yeah, you guys were great, I'd give you a 7. Then it's not very likely that when someone just happens to be mentioning a dinner that they're looking to do a web design, they're going to, oh, you know what, you should call this guy. Because a 7 is not enthusiastic. A 7 is, I got what I paid for, things are good. But what you want is the people that think of your company as one of the best decisions they made. And so because of that, at some point in their brain, they're listening for opportunities to tell other people about you. They're listening for opportunities to say, you should call my guy. My guy does an amazing job, right? And we all have friends. We've all heard, friends or family or stuff, they all have their people, whether it's the person that cuts their hair, whether it's a restaurant they love. You can always tell the difference when someone is truly enthusiastic about that business, or when someone's just this business could get done what you'd like to get done. There's a very big difference. And the more that you can get these enthusiastic promoters for your business, the more business you're going to have coming in that you're not going to have to work your butt off to find. So yeah, customer satisfaction, and finding out what that customer satisfaction is, and finding out why it isn't as high as it should be if it's not, and fixing those things is very, very important to a successful business. All right. So let's move on then to our assessment. So for our assessment this week, we are going to be doing some basic accounting. For a lot of people, this is a boring part of running a business that they don't really want to have to think about very much. But the reality of it is that if you don't know what's happening with your money, your business is going to fail. You need to really be tracking both your income and your expenses, your outflow of money. And the other reality is that as your business grows and becomes successful, this actually becomes very enjoyable. It's actually really nice to go in and just see the numbers, just see how things are going, see what's working, and then do some brainstorming and possibly try to find ways to even improve it from there. So there are tons of different software programs that do this for small businesses. The big one is probably QuickBooks. QuickBooks is a really, really popular small business software program that adds a lot of depth to accounting for a business. For this, we're just going to use Excel. I mean, you can totally use Excel. It's pretty basic, but Excel does a lot. And I'm actually going to I'm going to do a little bit of a I'm going to show you a few tools in Excel that you may know or you may not. None of them are particularly like super advanced, but they're definitely one step up from the basics of Excel, and they will help you to create accounting like files that will be more efficient for you, do more things on their own rather than you having to do everything in it, and give you that information that you need to know. So yeah, QuickBooks does some great stuff. So down here, like, there's a lot of different parts, but we're going to break this down to 3 things for this assessment. Income, that's a record of any money the company receives. Expenses, a record of any money the company spends. And the balance, that's the amount of money the company currently has after adding all the income and subtracting all the expenses. Okay? What we're creating is called a ledger. This video here will go through some of the basics of a ledger as well. Okay? So for this assessment, you're going to create a hypothetical ledger tracking all the income and expenses for 2 months. Okay? So you're going to start by opening Excel. And in Excel, we're going to make 2 sheets. Yeah, you can label it however you want, as long as it's the numbers are actually tracking income and expenses. That's fine. So as you can see here, it says in Excel workbook, label 2 sheet tabs, March and April. Okay. So we're going to come here, and I'm just going to call this one March. I'm going to click plus to make another sheet, and I'm going to call this one April. And once we get the bones set up for how like for the way the system's going to work in March, we can easily just copy and paste it in April and then change the numbers as necessary. Excuse me. You are going to start with the March worksheet. You're going to use a 3-year budget. You're going to use your 3-year budget that you did last week as a guide. So the idea is that your 3-year budget is correct. And for anyone confused on this, the budget was projecting. The budget is looking forward and saying, this is what I think is going to happen. What we're doing now is tracking what actually happened, okay? But you're going to use your 3-year budget based upon the idea that you were accurate, or at least fairly so. If you want to play around with some of the numbers a little bit to make it seem like some things ended up being a little different, that's fine too. And it's going to show you're going to divide the total monthly income between a few hypothetical jobs. So, you said we make this much a month. So just kind of split it up into some jobs that you made up to show there were multiple jobs that month. You need to have at least the following column headers: the date, the transaction, the category, the type, which is going to be income or expense, the amount, and the balance. Yeah, absolutely, William. That's some of the stuff I'm going to go over today. I'm going to go through some of the ways you can do things like that, so that to automatically do some of the calculations. But you don't have to. Just so you know, anyone watching this that's feeling, as I go through these demonstrations of some of the more intermediate capabilities of Excel, if you feel yourself feeling like, oh my gosh, that's, I don't know how to do that yet, you don't have to. You can manually calculate the balance every time. That's totally fine. So once you've done that for March, you're going to create the same headers in the April worksheet, and you're going to carry the balance at the end of March over to the starting balance in April. And then you're going to fill in the April worksheet using another hypothetical typical month as well. Okay. You want to make sure that both months have all the transactions, both income and expenses, that you would expect for a typical month based on the estimates that you made in your 3-year budget. And then again, we're going to use our design skills to format the worksheet so it looks professional. Okay. So first, let me show you just kind of some very basics of this, and then I'm going to show you some tools that can make it a little more automated if you want. So I'm going to go in here, and I'm just going to say, put some headers in: date, transaction, category, type, amount, and balance. Okay. Now, if I were to just do this manually, so we always have a starting balance for the month. So let's say that 3/1, I'm just going to call this one starting balance And I'm just gonna, as a category, I could just put cash if I want to. The type for this, in fact, for starting balance, I'm gonna leave these ones blank. So let's just say that I started the month with $1,200, okay? And in reality, if I were setting this up for myself, I'd just stick that in balance. My starting balance would look a little more something like that. I'm going to go ahead and just format my amount column, my balance column as money. So it just automatically does the $sign and the decimal points. And so that's my starting balance. That's where I came in at. So maybe on March 1st, I had to pay my my electric bill. So I'm going to say March 1, and let's call this electric bill. My category is this is a utility. My type is that this is an expense. Whoops. My amount, let's say that it was $85. And then I would just do equals 1,200 minus 85. Okay. Now, because that's how I could do it, that's how I could manually do this. Yeah, you're welcome to, William. As long as it's not missing any of these elements, you're welcome to add elements to it if you'd like. So that's how I could manually do this, right? I'm manually typing in what it is, and then I am hitting the plus sign down there. Now, I'm going to show you some things that I might do to automate this a little bit. But in order to do that, I'm going to go over just a couple of basics of Excel first to help you to know some of the ways that it's acting and how I can use those things to my advantage. Okay. And I'm going to use, in order to, there's a little example sheet that I use to demonstrate the first one. So let's just pretend that I own a theater of some sort. Okay. I'm a business person, I own a theater. I've got, for each of these 3 months, I've got how many tickets I sold. I've got the ticket price. I've got the total revenue. So again, that's how much I brought in total. And then I've got expenses. And then I've got profit, okay? So let's say that this month I sold 3,000 tickets. Let's pretend my tickets are $8 a piece. So my total revenue is equals 3,000 times 8. Let's say this month I had 12,500 in expenses. So my profit equals my revenue minus my expenses. Okay? So that's the manual way to do this. But here's the thing. As I fill this out, one thing I'm going to notice off the bat is that my ticket price is always $8. My ticket price is not going to change from $8. So let's say that I'm just like, okay, let's just stick that over here. Let's take it out of the grid altogether. And I'm just going to go ahead and delete that column. And now I'm going to say equals tickets sold times $8. All right, so that was simple. Now, let's go ahead and we're going to use some copying and pasting, because I'm going to say I did 2,500 tickets. I'll just copy and paste that down there. It might say my expenses were the same, and I'll copy and paste my profit down there. Well, that didn't work. Very clearly, that didn't work. My revenue came in at $0. The profit formula worked just fine. It still ended up being my revenue minus my expenses. But my total revenue, if I double click on that, you can see that it's timesing my ticket sold by the one underneath my ticket price. And the reason why is because Excel, when you copy and paste a formula, it does not treat it as an exact copy and paste. It treats it as the way that it thinks is most likely the way you want to use it. And in most cases it is. And that is, it's a relative copy and paste. Instead of saying copy and paste these exact spots, it's saying copy and paste the spot. Like this one here is basically saying copy and paste the spot 2 to the left of my cell to the spot 1 to the left of my cell. And since I did that, it worked just fine when I went down. It's 2 to the left, 1 to the left, just right for April. But here, this one says copy and paste the one to the left of me to the one that's what, like 5 to the right of me and up 1. So when I put it down here, it went 5 to the right and up 1, and now it's in the wrong space. Okay, these are called relative locations. Relative locations shift as you copy and paste things. And in most cases, that's what you want. But if you ever have any sort of a like a steady, unchanging value that's being brought in from a steady and unchanging place, it doesn't work. So what we have to do is we use something that is called, oh man, my brain just completely, static, but there's another term they use for it. But it is a static cell. Yeah, absolute, that's it. It's called an absolute value. You are saying, I want this to always be exactly that, okay? The way you set up absolute values in Excel is you put a $ before the part of the address. So H1 is the address of this cell. If I put a $ before H, it's absolutely always going to stay in column H, but it will still shift down. It'll still shift down from 1 because I need to put a $ before the 1. So you're choosing both column and row, and if you put a $ between one or both of those, it will never move when it's copied and pasted. So now that I've done that, I can copy and paste that and my formula works just fine. So the advantage is I can set up my document to have the formulas in place already. So you can see how this already has a formula there. So now when it comes to May, rather than having to go and type everything in again, all I need to do is just say, all right, in May we sold 2,400 tickets and our expenses were 11,400. I only need to put in the numbers that changed, and the formulas that will always be the same every single month automatically calculate, and I don't need to worry about redoing those. Okay, so copying and pasting formulas, good way to automate things, but again, if you're ever looking at a static position, you need to make sure to make it an absolute formula or copying and pasting will not work. Okay, so let's go back to our example here, and let's look at some other ways that we can set this up to be automatic for us so that we don't have to do as much every single month to get it filled out. Okay, so I already did one of those things, and that is I formatted the ones that are money as money. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to format the one that's date as a date. So now it knows those are dates and those are money. Now, my balance is always going to be a specific formula. So I'm going to say again, I have my opening balance. Oh, that's my date. Let's do them. You can. That's something I'm going to go over actually today. Yeah. So I've got my opening balance. I had $1,200 for my opening balance. So in every single one coming down from here, it is going to be equals whatever the one is to the right of it, and then it's either going to minus or add the one to the left. Okay? So there's a couple of ways I can do that. I can make it simple. I can say minus this one. Okay? And I'm going to just copy that formula. I'm going to paste it all the way down. And then now, when I have another transaction, that's my electric. Category was utility. Oops. Utility. Type was expense. Amount was since I've manually put this, I can't just type how much I paid as a normal number. I need to actually say it was a negative number. Otherwise, it's going to add it to my balance instead of subtracting it. Oh, did I set this to subtract? Oops, let's change that to an add. Okay, so now you can see, since I put that as a negative number, it subtracted it to my balance, and I got the right number here. Okay, that's one thing I can do to automate this. Let's look at a few other things we can do. One, this is annoying. The fact that the balance is just showing me that 1,122 all the way down through rows, even though I have not put anything there yet. Okay, so we are going to use something that's called an if-then statement. It's a logical statement that we can do in Excel. So here's an example of an if-then statement. I'm going to do equals, and I'm going to type if. That is the formula for this statement. And I'm going to do a parentheses to start going. So the first thing I write down is if what? What am I saying if this is this way? I'm going to say if this cell over here equals, and if I put something in quotes, I'm looking at text, or I could do a number without quotes. If I'm doing text, I'm going to say yes. If that equals yes, then I'm going to close quotes on that. So that's my logical statement. That's my what if. I'm saying if that one over there equals yes, then I'm going to do a comma. The next thing I'm going to say is what do I want it to do if that equals yes? Okay. We'll go ahead. I could type a number again, or I could do a formula, a mathematical thing want to happen. In this case, I'm just going to put quotes again, and I'm going to say woohoo. Okay. And then I'm going to go ahead and do another comma, and now I'm going to write what I want it to do if it doesn't say yes. So what if that's false? What do I want to do now? I'm going to say I want it to leave it blank if it doesn't say yes. So I'm just going to put two quotes right next to each other. That's just, no text at all. And then I'm going to do my final parentheses to close that out. And there's my blank cell because it does not say yes over here. And there's my woohoo. Okay. That is a logical test to create what's called an if-then statement in order to tell it what to do. Okay. So what I would want to do with this is I would want to say if, I'm trying to remember what come on. All right, I'm going to say if this one, so not that yet. I'm going to say if this cell here equals, then I'm going to do two quotation marks is blank, comma, don't put anything. So two quotation marks. And then comma again, if it's not blank, do this formula, F2 plus E3. Close parentheses, boom. Let's go ahead and copy that formula down below. Now, it doesn't show anything down there at all until I put a number in, and then it gives me my balance. Okay? So, again, we're getting into a little more complicated, but once you've done that a couple times, it's pretty easy, and it allows us to automate this, to make it so that things are happening automatically, and we're not having to do as much every single time, because we don't want to go in and fill this out from scratch every single time something happens, right? So that's one way I can automate this. Okay. Any questions on that? First of all, any questions on the if-then statements? All right. Let's go ahead and take a break. And when we come back, I'll show you a couple other cool ways that we can automate this and really turn this into a useful spreadsheet. I'm going to go ahead and just set a timer for 15. And I'll see you guys at 15. Okay, we are back. So, you guys hear me? First of all, let me double check that. All right. So let's talk about some other ways that I can automate this or just make it a little simpler. One thing I can do, like William was asking, can I do drop down in here? And I absolutely can. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select these. And I'm going to go to data. And I'm going to go to data validation. Oh man, I'm trying to remember where. It's been a while since I've done drop downs. Yeah, I'm pretty sure we're going to do it under validation. Okay. Where is that actually? Sorry, one sec. You caught me in a, it's been a while since I've done these. I think it may have even moved it on me. Hang on one second. Let me pull up another one I have where I have it in there. Let's see where that was. Okay. So yeah, that is, oh, that's right. You got to go to the, it is validation, but you go up here to data and then validation. No, that's the same. Should be in the list section. Oh, there we go. I just didn't notice it there. Yeah. Okay. So same thing. You can either go to data and then validation, or you can come here into the data part of the ribbon and choose data validation. What we're looking for under settings is list. That's where I was missing. Okay. Now you have to have the list existing somewhere else in order for this to do this. So, you know, sometimes people will do it on a different sheet. Sometimes they'll just do it over to the side. You know, whatever, you know, I'll go ahead and just, I'll just put it right here. And I will just say types. I'm going to go ahead and just bold these. And I'm just going to say income, expense. Okay. Now I'm going to click, let's go ahead and select my type columns. And I'm going to click on the data validation. I'm going to choose list. And then I just need to, here where it says source, I'm going to click this little icon to the side there. And I'm going to come and click those options that I want in there. Press return. And that's set there. And then I'm going to go ahead and click OK. And you'll see how anytime I go to one of these now, I have a drop down. Now, that works well for my income and my expenses, but that would also work well for your categories. You know, category might be, you know, it could be new web design, it could be, or new client, it could be update, it could be utilities, it could be, if you're tracking things, you know, because with accounting, with your accountants, you may have different types of expenses, office expenses, computer equipment, that sort of thing. So you could also very easily make a list of categories, just like I did here, and make it so that your category is a drop-down list too. And then that way you don't need to type it in every single time. It just becomes an option. The nice thing about that is it makes it really easy to filter it so you're just seeing any expenses in a particular category or any income in a particular category, so that you can do even more significant analysis and see how much you're spending on categories or how much you're earning in categories rather than just overall. But for now, I'm just going to keep it on type. But I'm going to do one other thing here. Because I have this set to type, and I don't want to have to do my negative, like I don't want to have to like type in negative something when I'm paying and positive something when I'm not. I'm going to extend this formula because I can actually create formulas within formulas. So right now, this says if E3 equals nothing, don't do anything. If it doesn't, do this formula. So I'm going to change this second part of the formula. I'm going to say, so if that is blank, don't do anything. If it's not blank, then I want it to check another if. If it's not blank, then if the type equals, let's do income. Oh, I got to put that in quotes so it knows it's text it's looking for. Income, then I want you to do this plus this. And if it doesn't equal income, then I want you to do this minus this. I need to put another parentheses in there because I've got, you have to make sure you have the right amount of parentheses since I've got an opening there and an opening there. I need two closings at the end. So now when I come in here, I can say, okay, so this is an expense and I spent $78 and you'll notice that it subtracted it. And if I say this is income and I earned $500, then you'll see that it added it. Make sense? So you can basically nest formulas within formulas in order to have it do whatever you want it to do. Now I don't have to worry about making sure that I always hit negative when it's an expense and always hit positive when it's income. I can just type in what it is, and it works just fine. All right. There's also, absolutely, you can definitely call for, so it sees sheets by name. So for example, I want, well, here, let's do this. I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to go over here and I'm going to paste it. And if you go and look, this is drawing from the other sheet. So let's just say I type 560 or 654 there. I'm going to copy that and I'm going to go over to March and I'm going to paste it. Oh, actually, let's do that a different way. Let's say I'm going to go to March and I'm going to say equals, and then I'm going to go to April and I'm going to say that. And then I can come back here and say times 4. You'll see that in my formula, it said equals March exclamation point J4. Now, if you just go over and click it, it automatically puts in the sheet as part of the formula, but it sees the sheet as part of the formula. Okay, so yeah, you can absolutely have them call for multiple sheets. So if I get this set up the way that I want it set up, I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to get rid of these. Then I can now copy this and paste it over to April, and it's ready to do all those calculations in April too. I don't need to worry about going in and resetting up all the formulas and resetting up how I want it done. Now it's just ready for me to fill out April. Okay. And a lot of times, if I don't want types over here, I'll make a new sheet, and maybe I'll come over here and I'll call this data sources or something like that. And that's where I'd put all my list information and then tell it to pull the list from there. Now, one other thing I want to do here. Every single month I've got a beginning balance. Every single month I've got an ending balance. The problem is I never know how many transactions I'm going to have in a month. I want it to automatically have my opening balance over here be what the ending balance was for the week before or the month before. But I don't really have a set cell that I can do that in, right? And there's a couple of ways you can do this. One thing that you could do is you could so William was talking about doing the 2-column thing. Rather than having just amounts, I could split it, and I could have a column that's for expenses and a column that's for income. And then I could have this just automatically over here. I could tell I want my opening balance, and I could just say, add up all, sum all my income column and sum all my expense column and subtract my expense column from my income column, and that's my new opening balance. But it depends on how complicated you want to get with it. But bottom line, you've got all these different things you can do in order to make this as simple or as complex as you want. But again, the simple and complex is relative to the beginning or the end. Being more complex in the setup of it makes actually maintaining it more simple. Being more simple in the setup of it makes maintaining it more complex. And you can kind of do whatever you feel is most, works best within how comfortable you feel with Excel. But the bottom line is I want to be able to pull this up at any time and see exactly how much money how much money I have, how much money I've earned that much, how much money I've spent that month, so that I can know that things are working out the way that I need them to. I can come over here and I can do even a running balance. And that's why, personally, I'm doing this based on the instructions, but when you were talking, William, about doing a 2-line method, I personally prefer that. So for anyone who's interested in what that is, rather than having everything be in one thing, I would have 2 columns here, incomes and expenses, right? And then I don't have a type column necessarily. So I'd come and I'd get rid of this. Now you need a type column for this assignment, so you leave it in there if you're doing this. But that way, when I come to a new thing, and I'm going to just change this formula to work accordingly, what I would want this formula to do, I'd probably say if let's go ahead and just put the transaction. Whoops, forgot to do my parentheses. If the transaction is blank, don't do anything. But if the transaction has something in it, what I want it to do is I want it to take this number and I want it to add. Well, actually, no, I'm going to do this differently. We'll make this even more simple. I'm going to say if the income equals blank, then I want you to take the balance and I want you to subtract the expenses. And if it's not blank, I want you to take the balance and I want you to, sorry. This is just like working with coding. You have to rethink things. Let's again do if this one is blank. So I'm going to say if the transaction is blank. So this will occur the moment I put a transaction in. If it is blank, don't do anything. If it is not blank, then I'm going to do a second if then transaction. If this one equals blank, that means there's nothing in the income. Then what I want you to do is take the balance and subtract an expense. And if there is something in the income, I want you to take the balance and I want you to add the income. So what I did, since I did like 3 different things, I'll explain what I did. I told it first to look at the transaction cell, and if it's blank, it just doesn't do anything at all. If there's something in the transaction cell, then next it looks at the income cell. If it's blank, it subtracts whatever's in expenses. If it's not blank, it adds whatever's in income. Yeah, there's all sorts of different ways. You're just working with logical puzzles. So now I come here and say, oh, this is an electric bill. And we'll say that's a utility. Again, I'd do a drop down for my categories. And then I'm going to say, well, that was an expense. I'll put $70 there. And you'll see it subtracted that. And if I say, whoops, I'll put a date on there. If I say that on 3/3, I did the write project, and it was a new site, and I charged $750 for it. And now it added the 750 because it was in the income column. Okay, so it's looking at what they are and it's doing them accordingly. Now, here's the reason why I prefer doing it with 2 columns is because now over here I can say total income, or let's do expenses for, or yeah, income. That's the right word. Total expenses, and then I'm going to say ending balance. Okay, we've got 3 new cells over here to play around with. And on this one, I'm going to say equals, equals sum. So sum is just an addition of my income column. And then here equals sum of my expenses column. It's got that right. And then for my ending balance, I'm going to say equals whatever my opening balance was plus my income minus my expenses. And that's automatically there. And that allows me to go to April and say I want the opening balance to be that. So now when I'm ready to start working on April, I don't have to like go over and manually type in what I ended up with an ending balance. It's just already there as my opening balance for April. That makes sense? So yeah, there's lots of different ways to do this. You know, just like working with coding and stuff, it's all logic. So you're basically just coming up with a way that will logically tell Excel to do what you want it to do. And again, you can make that as simple as possible if it's something that you struggle with, just by manually typing in the pluses and minuses, or you can make it as advanced as possible, where you only have to just type in the very basic things that change, and it goes ahead and goes into there. Oh, the double entry method, yeah. Yeah. And you're welcome to do that too. So anyway, so for this week's assessment, that's what you're doing. It does not need to include all the complicated things that I put into mind, but you can if you want to. But it does need to have March and April. It does need to have at least these categories. Again, you can split the type into income and expense columns if you'd like, and have them be the amount together. And it needs to have both March and April, and then it needs to be based on your 3-year budget. So the idea is that you were pretty much right about that. So you'll split out your income into several different projects, hypothetical projects. And then you'll need to just kind of do some formatting like we went over last week to just make it look more professional. And you're going to submit the Excel file. Any questions at all on your assessment for this week? Yeah, so that's the formatting. You want to make sure that you format it up. Just make it look professional and tied to you. Doesn't need to be anything too crazy. You can do colors. At the very least, I want you to do it to the point where it looks like how I bolded my categories. You want to, and I've got dollars and dates. You want to make sure that it's at least formatted to the point where it's clear and easy to read, because different things, have contrast, and similar things have repetition, basically. All right. Okay. Let's go out of there then. Let's take a look at what we are doing for our assignment for this week. So for our assignment this week, we are creating a basic invoice. Oh, not that one. Because doing the work is all well and good, but I'm pretty sure you guys want to get paid for it. And when you create an invoice, an invoice really is a design piece of yours. When you send an invoice to a client, you want that invoice to back up the concept that this is a professional web design company that they're doing business with. It should be branded to you, but it should also be functional, nice looking, following the principles of design to make sure that that when people get this, they get a sense of, yeah, I'm working with a real quality company here, rather than just, here's what you owe me, send me a check. So make sure to read the background, but a couple of things to pay attention to. A web designer's invoice should include at least the following parts: your business information, so the name, address, phone number, etc. for your business, email address, that sort of thing. A place to put your customer information. You got to have a field where you can write down the information for the customer, their name, and contact information. A place for the invoice number. A place for the date and terms. So terms would be maybe like if you've got a net 30, they're planning on paying in 30 days, that sort of thing. A place for the quantity and the description and the price, what you've done. A place for tax, delivery, and other additional charges. Okay. Here is an article. Definitely go read this. This goes over a lot of important information to keep in mind. It's a really short article about doing an invoice, and you probably want to do a little research on your own as well. Okay. It says you usually fill out the invoice on a computer or a tablet, and then you email it to a customer. And one of the most convenient ways to do this is to create an invoice template in InDesign, using fillable fields for all the parts that vary from job to job. So I'm going to say my personal opinion on that. The InDesign one can be a nice way to go, but you have a little limitation in the filling out. You can export really anything as a PDF, and you do want to send it a PDF. So if you find a more convenient way to do invoices, that's fine. But like I personally don't use fillable fields in InDesign, or a fillable field PDF for mine. I have an InDesign document that I go in and edit. And then I save as PDFs and file those PDFs, just because I like having a little more control over the editing than the fields give you. But this is definitely a great tool to know how to do for other purposes as well, and what's what we're going to use for this assignment. So in the prompt, it says, for this assignment, you're going to create an invoice with fillable fields that you can use to bill your clients. Be sure to utilize the principles of design when laying out and designing your invoice. The industry standard is 8.5 by 11. However, you can choose a size that may better reflect your branding if you want to. This link here will give you step-by-step instructions on creating a PDF with fillable fields. Okay, so what that means is you're not actually going into InDesign when you want to fill out the PDF. You're just opening it up in Acrobat, and then you're able to just type within the fields that were created when you made the document. Use InDesign to create an invoice with fillable fields. It has to have those things we already went through up above need to be in there. Make sure the invoice represents your design skills, represents your brand, and includes your logo. And then you're going to submit it as a PDF with fillable fields. That's part of it. So I'm going to open it up and click and see if I can actually fill it out. And if I can actually fill out all the parts that will need to be filled out. Your business information is never going to change, but all the rest of this stuff is going to change from job to job, so it all needs to be fillable fields. Okay. If I go to this link here, you'll see that this has to do with creating forms in InDesign. Okay. Now it's pretty straightforward. You open up InDesign here. So fillable fields, you can do, as it goes through, you can do check boxes, you can do signature fields, you can do a text field. There's all sorts of different kinds you can do depending on what you need. But what you're going to do, and I'm not going to do layout necessarily for this one. I'm just going to do the field itself. So I can come here and I create a frame for the field to be in. Okay. And then I'm sorry, I'm going to do a text frame. You'll probably want to label. You'll definitely want to label. Let's just say here that I have I'll just do description as a basic label. Okay. And then I'm going to go here. I'm trying to remember if I can do this from a text frame or if I need a. Let's try it from here. So what you're going to be working with is in the interactive. If you go to Window and you go to Interactive, and it is the one here for buttons and forms. Okay. And under Type, this is where you can see all the different types you can have. They can be, like I said, you can have checkboxes. You can have a list box for a drop-down list. I'm just going to leave this one as a text field. Okay. Now I can, if I format my font in here, it'll format in the field as well. Let's see here, make sure that I've got. There we go. So I got here, this is a text field. This is the name. I'm going to call this one description. The event is on a release or a tap. I can do it on a click or rollover. Let's go ahead and just do it on a click. And don't need any actions because it's a text field. My PDF options, I can make it so it's password protected if I want to. I can make it so it's not printable if I want to. And here's my text formatting down here below. So let's say that I want, well, let's look like that, Opinion Pro, stuff like that. And then I'm going to just say convert to, whoops, not what I meant to do. That's the other way to do it. You can right click on it and convert it from here. But I just converted it back the other way around. So we'll just set that up again. Make that a text field. And the rest of that, we'll just go on a click. Okay. So since I have that set like that now, if I come up here and I export this, what I need to make sure that I do, just put that on my desktop. In here, where I've got the PDF options, I need to make sure that I'm telling it to include interactive elements. If I don't include the interactive elements, then it's not going to work correctly. Now, I'm trying to include appearance. Okay, that's fine. I believe that is it. So there's my description. Oh, let's open that in. You know what? Actually, I'm going to have to take a look at that again because I'm pretty sure that I was wondering why I just said include appearance. I need that to include the actual thing. They have, like I said, I do not use these very much, and they have apparently changed that option since I did this last time. So we can learn this together and see where they've moved the ability to include interactive. There's my hyperlinks. Hang on one second here. Oh, and one thing you can do that it does talk about in the that link I gave you is you can actually set up the tabbing order, which is kind of cool. So as people like tab through a document, you can choose what order they tab through, which is nice. But I'm trying to, I want it to include the actual interactive elements. And they have moved that. Sorry, one sec. I'm going to look this up here.
I just used it and I can't remember where it was.
Yeah, well, the thing is, I could have sworn it was under that one before I updated. Let's see here. Oh, yeah, they have moved it. So here, following some instructions on Adobe's site here. We're gonna go, yeah, okay. They've put it, so it's not in the PDF presets anymore. That's the issue. I need to go to export. So I'm gonna go to export and it's Adobe PDF Interactive. There's the there's this.
That's what it was. I couldn't remember, but I knew there was something somewhere.
Yeah, okay. So don't use the presets. Export and make sure it's Adobe PDF Interactive. And then that should have it there. Now you can choose different things, like whether it shows like lines for where they are and stuff like that. But now you can see I have an editable field. It's like this. I don't see it. Click on there, and I can type in what I want. Okay. Now I would recommend doing it. You see how I put lines on the outside once it was typed into it? If you create things in a table or strokes, then it can eliminate that. But that's one of the reasons why I don't usually do this with an interactive PDF. I usually just do it in an InDesign document. But it is definitely good to know how to do it in an interactive PDF. So that's why they have you do this assignment. So that's what we're doing this week. Focus primarily on the design first. Get it designed the way that you need to so it looks good, it's functional the way you want it, and then you're going to place those interactive fields into your design and then export it as an interactive PDF and submit that PDF. All right. Any questions on the assignment for this week?
No, but there is a way. I viewed a video on it, and there is a way to use them lines that are around the box to your advantage.
Yeah.
You can set it up so that every time you add a new line, it adds the box right to where you want the actual box to be, and then it forms like a grid layout of everything that's put in there, and you don't have your blank space is more of a white space than it is a box space. You know what I mean?
Well, and so I opened it originally in Preview, which is a Mac like the default PDF viewer, and has editable capabilities. You'll notice that when I open this in, and I'm glad I remembered this because I've had some questions in the past. You'll notice that when I open this in Acrobat, my fields are blue by default. And so don't be surprised that people are like, how do I get rid of the blue? It's actually a viewing option in Acrobat. You can say, what color you want editable fields to show up as. It's not something you set up in InDesign when you make it. But in here, when I edit it, whoops, just hit escape accidentally. You'll see that it doesn't actually show the lines like it did in Preview, but it does show the blue boxes. And that, again, that's a viewing option within Acrobat, not something that you're setting up in InDesign. All right. All right, guys. Well, that is everything that I have to go over for today then. Any final questions about anything before we call it a day? All right. Again, remember your invoice, sometimes it can feel like an afterthought. In fact, a lot of people will get started and they'll realize, oh, geez, I need an invoice to send to someone. But it really is an important part of your business, like branding. So make sure you're thinking of the brand, thinking of the design, the same sort of stuff we were looking at with our Facebook page, with our HTML email marketing piece. You want this to tie within your brand and be something that's going to impress someone when you send it to them. Okay? All right, guys. We'll have a great couple of days then, and I will look forward to seeing you on Thursday. Thanks for coming, guys.